Here's an introduction to Writing Project 3, the research poster and reflective essay. As with any of our writing projects, it's important that we understand Writing Project 3 as a rhetorical situation, meaning we're going to want to identify the genre, audience, and purpose of this assignment. The genre of Writing Project 3, as I've said, is the research poster, which is a presentation of research conveyed through a poster. These posters can be paper, but in our case, because we're not going to print them, they're going to be digital. Your target audience for Writing Project 3 is any passersby who could walk past your poster at an academic conference. And we're going to talk a little bit more about what exactly an academic conference is, too. And finally, the purpose of a research poster is to visually represent important findings. Some of you have perhaps already attended your first academic conference, but there might be some of you who are watching this and wondering, what is an academic conference? Who would ever have access to, who would ever casually walk by a research poster? Well, here's what an academic conference is. These are events that are organized and designated for academics so that they can share research with one another. Academic conferences can last one day, or they can last for several days. They can be intradisciplinary, interdisciplinary, or transdisciplinary. For example, there might be discipline-specific academic conferences for, say, engineering or English, or there are conferences that can invite multiple disciplines to speak to one another. Academic conferences can also be designed specifically for undergraduates, graduate students, or professionals, established academics. For the purposes of our class, however, you are going to design a research poster that you would be willing to submit to an undergraduate research conference. This research paper is going to be based on the information that you've already presented in Writing Project 2, your research argument essay. To be clear, this assignment does not require you to do any additional new research about the topic that you wrote about in Writing Project 2. However, if you want to, you certainly can. Ultimately, the practice of designing a research poster asks you to demonstrate an understanding of what we call in the profession multimodality and remediation. And I know these words sound fancy and complicated, but they are neither fancy nor complicated. Multimodality means that you're implementing many modes of communication into a specific project. For example, the research poster implements both verbal communication, alphabetic communication, and also visual communication modes. Remediation, on the other hand, is just a fancy term for adaptation. You're taking information that was originally presented in one genre and you're representing it, you're adapting it, you're remediating it into a new genre. This assignment asks you to remediate your researched argument essay by summarizing it in 500 to 600 words. And when you're presenting this information on a research poster, it's good practice to avoid inserting full paragraphs. If you need to insert a paragraph, try to condense it just to 1 or 2 sentences, and it's even better if you can use bullet points or some other kind of creative strategy in order to present this verbal communication. You're also going to want to include visuals, and you have a lot of creative freedom in deciding which visual should go onto your research poster. You're welcome to use non-copyrighted images, tables, charts, something that you yourself create, whatever you think is most appropriate for your project. I'm going to ask that you include at least 2 of those. In addition to your research poster, Writing Project 3 also asks you to submit a third reflective essay. So here are the expectations for this reflective essay. In about 200 words, you're going to want to answer 2 questions. The first question is, What kinds of strategies did you employ in order to remediate the main ideas of your research argument essay to your research poster? And the second question is, what rhetorical choices did you make? And why do you think that those choices are effective for an audience that is unfamiliar with your topic? As always, the reflective essay asks you to talk a little bit more about your rhetorical strategies and your thought processes throughout the designing of this project. I also ask that you upload this reflective essay as a Word document to the Writing Project 3 submission portal along with your research poster. There's a more in-depth rubric attached to the assignment sheet for Writing Project 3 on our Brightspace course site. However, I'm predominantly going to assess the final draft of your research poster and reflective essay based on these 6 elements. I'll be looking for how well you adapted key content from your research essay to a multimodal document. I'll also be examining the effectiveness of the visual design choices that you've made, including layout, color, and images. You'll also want to consider the organization, arrangement, and structure of the poster. I'm interested in how well your explanation of your writing and composing process and rhetorical choices come across in your reflection. And of course, perhaps not surprisingly, I'm also interested in how well the poster responds to the needs of an audience who is unfamiliar with your topic. In addition to these, I will be paying attention to things like formatting and proofreading in order to meet audience expectations. In order to get started on your first draft of Writing Project 3, I recommend that you start by summarizing your research argument essay into this new, much shorter word requirement. This is often the most difficult element of Writing Project 3 for students, and it can take some time for you to determine what's really the most important points in your essay. After you have your summary figured out, then look for appropriate images or develop helpful graphs, tables, or charts to offer a visual explanation of that content. Start with the words, then focus on the visuals. Most students think that designing the research poster is a lot of fun, and I'm really looking forward to hearing and seeing about your ideas. If you have any questions at all, you can email me at ande1204@purdue.edu, and we'll talk later.